The sight on South African roads that everyone loves to hate. The snags, snares, and traps of traffic law enforcement. Traffic police claim they're only doing their jobs to make the country's roads safer. But has the business of traffic fines become an actual business, one that puts profit before principle?
My name is Howard Dembowski. I'm the chairman of the Justice Project South Africa. Our organization was formed in June 2008. Our organization deals with the abuse of power within law enforcement structures. We are a public watchdog, if you like, to make sure that the public's rights are not abused. They're sitting hiding behind cameras, taking people's photographs.
This is the hit squad of Justice Project South Africa, a private organization that fights for fair treatment of ordinary citizens.
JMPD has been one of our primary targets because they're amongst the worst in the country. However, this is something that is widespread. The abuse of traffic enforcement throughout the whole of South Africa is one of the biggest areas of abuse.
Justice Project South Africa recently took on the traffic authorities for issuing thousands of illegal fines. At issue is that officials are not always obeying the law. Director Gerneke of JMPD explains.
In terms of the TCSP guidelines, you need to approve or apply to the Director Public Prosecutions to do speed camera law enforcement. And we also don't get approval for a site for the whole of Barry Hertzog Avenue. Each site has to be included individually.
Special assignment went on patrol with the Justice Project team to test the claim that sites are determined randomly.
It's a little bit late to back up, guys.
It wasn't long before we witnessed a case in point. We found a high-ranking official already at the scene, asking his officers to pack up.
Are you guys from the Internal Affairs? Because that's not set up in accordance with the TCSP guidelines.
That's why I'm here picking up. I told them they must leave there.
Okay. What about all those infringement notices?
No, I've taken note. We're going to deal with that.
You're going to delete them? Why were they set up there in the first place?
Pardon?
Why were they set up there in the first place?
In the first place?
Yes.
No, that's what I have to get it from their supervisors.
Yeah. This is happening too much. Okay. This is criminal. This is not preventing people from speeding. This is making money. Okay. You agree with me?
No, I've said it. I just, like I tell you, now I found it. It's wrong what they're doing.
Unqualified staff operating the equipment is also a problem. Not only does this officer not have the required operator certificate, she denied even having pressed a button on the camera.
He's operating.
You were operating it.
I'm accompanying him.
You were operating it, ma'am. You were operating it. Okay.
I went there to switch off the machine.
So in other words, you're impersonating a police officer.
Later, the Metro Cops confided in us as to why they had to set up 2 kilometers from the approved site.
What are they saying?
They said that lady, because this is the wrong place. But at the first place, they didn't say it's the wrong place. I came here 2007 speed section. Yeah. We have been sitting here since.
At first, Director Gerneke denied his officers were trapping illegally, but changed his mind when he heard his deputy was involved.
Who decided it was the wrong site?
He's the one who actually arrived as we were actually asking.
Have you had the guidelines with you?
Yes, and we had the site approvals. And the guys said, oh, we have been trapping since 2007, and we were told by a technician of company so-and-so to do it.
Now, I would like to know who the officer is, and we'll take it up with him and we'll charge him, because that should not be happening.
Meanwhile, across town, another JMPD team is found to be trapping illegally.
Please do not.
They
put
beat
your
a hasty
equipment in the
retreat
boot.
as special assignment approaches.
Your capture box. It's your battery pack. Okay, why is it being put into the vehicle?
This time, Justice Project South Africa decides to lay a charge with the South African police.
We have a situation here. JMPD is trapping in an unauthorized site. Okay, they're using their camera to trap vehicles supposedly speeding. They're supposed to be about between 2 and 5 kilometers away from here. So you're refusing to accept a charge of impersonating. All right. And the fact that they're committing fraud by being where they're not supposed to be is also okay. Yes, they are.
By law, any member of the public has the right to check that the Metro Police are operating correctly. But in this case, the police officials refuse to act. In this video captured by members of the public, a Metro Police officer admits being in the wrong place. She explains her actions.
That's why I was taking that side. That's why when you came here, you find the car which was looking down the hill.
There is a lot of illegal trapping within the JMPD. The JMPD ranks one of the
That
top.
to me is a general statement. I have yet somebody to come and show me that is something that is done illegally for the purpose of making extra income. And every time I could actually prove to you that we are running a clean system.
What are they doing differently?
But the Automobile Association begs to differ.
Certainly evidence within the JMPD, for example, has shown that not only is the equipment being used illegally, in essence that it just doesn't comply with the standards that are set, but also that the places where they have been putting them up, the appropriate permission has not been granted for those particular sites.
That is called unlawful prosecution. I think people need to understand this. Okay, when I say people, I'm talking about the law enforcement authorities.
With millions of vehicles on South Africa's roads on any given day, few can lay claim to not having received at least one fine in the mail. The JMPD alone issues over 200,000 fines per month, but not all are legitimate, as David McMaster of Krugersdorp recently found out. The pensioner was recently asked to pay up to 2 suspicious fines.
But when in the same post, you get the second ticket, and that shows you 1 minute after the first ticket, here's a second fine. The first question that came through my mind is it fair? In other words, what they can do is they can put 15 cameras a mile apart or a kilometer apart, and they can trap the same person 15 times. Is that fair? That's the question I ask.
According to times recorded on the infringements, David was first caught at N1 North by Canada Road Bridge at 11:37 a.m. before he was zapped a minute later at the N1 North Diepkloof interchange about 5 kilometers behind him. To have done what the photograph on the fine accused him of, David would have been driving along at over 300 kilometers per hour on the freeway in reverse gear.
I would not even have noticed the difference had I not gone and sought legal advice. Only to find out that on the first photograph, I'm going forward. The second photograph should have been the first photograph because I'm on the other side. I'm going backwards. I'm not going forward. My car, according to what they're telling me, and this is what I understand, is I am now going in reverse gear. And yes, that I'd like to see a guy travel at that speed in reverse gear.
So within a space of a minute, David had cloaked more than 2,000 rand in fines. He's not alone.
What was interesting about the fact is that 2 of these fines were for the same day, the same time, to different places.
Francesca Al-Halasse, a single mother from Midrand, was caught on the same stretch of road. When she called to query this, a private company contracted to the JMPD responded. She was advised to pay now and query later. She was also told it's not a legal requirement for clocks on the cameras to be synchronized. What this is telling is that she was told by a private company and not the JMPD. But the Metro Police acknowledges mistakes happen.
Now, if something like that happened, as I said, it's human. to process 200,000 photos. You will not be spot on with everyone, and that's why there's a representation process.
A local speed camera manufacturer with markets in Germany and the UK gives us a different view.
Certain equipment which has been manufactured locally haven't been stress tested enough, and under very dense traffic conditions it might be, for example, and that is obviously without having done further investigation, that the times were entered incorrectly on two different sets of equipment, or that one equipment is measuring the vehicle not only once but a few times, and that or one set of data is being misaligned and being misappropriated to the wrong image, for example.
By law, speed cameras should go under a process of calibration every 6 months. Calibration is a process by which the camera is serviced and also checked for accuracy.
This is basically the starting point of any successful traffic law enforcement program. You must start off with a set of standards which are rigid and have been tested and will cover the equipment operational aspects in any way once it's been used practically in the field, and will ensure that the equipment will measure to the degree of uncertainty as specified and brought out by those tribe approval guidelines.
With so many questionable traffic fines creeping up, just how competent is the equipment used locally?
Now, I think they state of the art, the best available in the country.
Then there's the issue of competency of the camera operators. By law, they should have a special qualification to man the cameras. As Special Assignment found out, often this isn't the case.
Can I see your operator's certificate, please?
This Metro Corps appointment card is barely visible, and there's no way of knowing whether he is who he says he is. There's another problem.
From January?
Yes.
No, come on.
I'm telling you.
If we have a quick look at this calibration certificate, the expiry on this is the 27th of July 2009, which is all in order. That's 20 days away, so we should imagine that this is all in order. However, if we go and take an actual look at the camera, we are now talking about something slightly different. The calibration seal that appears on this camera is different to this, because the expiry date on there says the 16th of July 2009. So which one is lying? Which one is the truth?
I'm not sure, because that has a latest date. It's got the 27th. This one says the 16th.
That's correct, but surely...
I'm not sure how it came about, honestly.
The attention now moves to this camera. A closer look reveals a foreign object, or to put it simply, a squashed AA battery being used either to balance or hold the speed camera together. The TCSP guidelines are clear. This is an illegal operation. At times, the situation can get out of hand. These officers react negatively when asked to produce their qualifications.
Hey, leave my camera alone.
Touch his camera.
Phone the police or do something, but you don't touch my camera.
You can phone the police. We don't mind about it.
Listen, guys.
Call the police.
Listen. I'll tell you what. I'll call your director.
There's been a gradual decrease in the standards of law enforcement throughout the country.
Each instrument out in the field, doesn't matter what they say, has got its field of application, and for that reason we have got operational guidelines for these equipment. And if somebody misuses the equipment, yes, you can get wrong results.
In the midst of all the confusion, what recourse is there for motorists?
They can write a representation to the municipality concerned saying, look, we don't agree with this, this thing was wrong, and 9 times out of 10 you won't even get a reply back to say, yes, we've received your letter and we're considering it.
If you look at the percentage of the complaints we are getting, and in terms of the representation, it's a very, very tiny percentage, not even 1%.
Where
Legally, we are obliged that...
Citizen rights organizations like Justice Project South Africa are questioning the role of private companies in speed law enforcement.
Every picture was taken.
In return for a commission on every traffic fine issued, these companies supply cameras, vehicles and also handle the bulk load of processing the fines.
The ratepayers of Johannesburg does not have the infrastructure and the money to sponsor that type of fancy equipment.
What's he talking about? Okay, can't afford it. No, of course they can't afford it. They're too busy filling their pockets with the fine money. Or they're too busy filling the private companies' pockets. I don't understand and I don't know. Okay, at the end of the day, if you can't afford the state-of-the-art stuff, then don't get the state-of-the-art stuff. It's not really state-of-the-art, by the way.
JMPD makes about 30 million rands a month in traffic fines. Gerneke says the three contracted companies, MVS, Sintel and TMT Services, are then paid between 30 Rand and 40 Rand per traffic fine.
I think it's disgusting, quite frankly. It translates to volume and nothing else, doesn't it? I mean, if I was running a private company, and believe me, I've run a few, okay, volume is what you're looking for. Not necessarily the fine value, but how many you can push out.
What we've seen happen throughout the country is that the metropolitan areas, certain municipalities, are reliant on the revenue generated by the speeding cameras to actually balance their books or to be able to do further projects, etc.
Law enforcement also should be done ideally by the state, government, local authorities, municipalities, metropolitan areas and so forth. The involvement of private companies, although not in the operation of the equipment, but certainly in some of the service provision, makes it appear that the whole process is profit-driven rather than law enforcement-driven.
The Road Traffic Management Corporation, which governs all traffic law enforcement in the country, explains.
The principle is you can enter into a partnership, but that partnership should be in such a way that for law enforcement purposes, private companies should not run the law enforcement function.
It has been argued that privatizing these functions is cost-effective and improves road safety. But how do you draw the line between profit and law enforcement? All three contractors declined our request for interviews, referring all questions to the JMPD.
They are paid per prosecutable photo. There is no incentive for them. They don't decide who gets prosecuted.
But most metro cops we caught trapping at wrong sides say contractors pressure them to move to more lucrative sides. In this footage, a contractor is curiously seen here packing away the equipment the moment we arrive.
Into the vehicle.
More evidence reveal a clear manipulation of the whole process. Field metro officers confess that the chain of command is so blurred, they at times take orders from the private company technicians. According to their site approval, these metro cops are only allowed to trap cars going south, but as photo evidence shows, they are trapping in both directions.
Probably because this side wasn't busy, that's why you tried to catch on both sides.
Even though he didn't have authorization to do so?
You know, when you come to the technicians, the other technician will tell you it's okay, you can do this, both. The other one will say, no, you can only take the one side. They are the ones who normally go out and look for the spots.
Look for the spots?
Yes.
Isn't the Director of Public Prosecutions the one who says where you can and where you can't sit?
What happens is, according to what I've heard them say, they would look for the spots and apply for them to be approved.
Thousands of tickets pass through this control room daily, some legitimate, others not. They are also displayed as legitimate on payfine.co.za, a website owned by one of the contractors. But arguably, without the site approval list being made public, most motorists would not dispute, but just pay up.
Speed cameras should be seen as a tool for law enforcement officers to perform their functions. But private people or private sector should not be seen as now being taking over the responsibility of traffic.
This whole thing has been driven by nothing more than financial greed.
A traffic department should never make a profit. They're there to serve the community, to look after their safety on the roads.
The Road Traffic Management Corporation, however, says profit-taking is soon to be a thing of the past with the introduction of a new traffic act known as ARTO. The act is currently in its pilot phase in Johannesburg and Tshwane.
Only 20% of the people who are issued with tickets, they pay their tickets. So 80% were never paid. Now, obviously, it's not from the perspective of making money, but it's from the side of compliance to ensure that people, when they pay, when they lose tomorrow, their behavior will change.
Under ARTO, a driver could lose their driver's license after scoring 12 points in infringement notices. Motorists are also allowed to nominate another driver if they were not the ones driving the vehicle at the time of the infringement. Arrest warrants will also be a thing of the past.
In Johannesburg and Tshwane, there's no way that you can be arrested because you have not paid an infringement. There's a process through ARTO that we are even busy taking education to educate our public to understand what are the implications of ARTO.
Until the new system is in place, however, the cat and mouse game continues. More than 90% of the traffic fines issued in Johannesburg are by these mobile speed cameras.
The best law enforcement officer is one that you can see all the time, because the whole intention of putting up a speed camera, remember, is to force people to slow down. So if you know where the cameras are and you do slow down for safety reasons, that's exactly, then everything has been achieved. Whether or not you actually have a prosecution is immaterial.
So you hide?
I must hide, or else I won't get cases. And then I'll waste my time to go and sit there. There is nothing in the act that stops me to sit in a tree and to hide behind the bush.
If we can prove, and we can, that you've prosecuted them unlawfully, then fraud, it becomes a very small part of this whole thing.
But unless citizens know how to enforce their rights, motorists could soon find themselves taken for a ride.